I think it could be overwhelming. I think what we're learning through particularly this conversation is we need to talk about it more. And I think the tip I would have is whether it's, you're on your own as a solo, or you have a small or medium-sized team. If you're on your own, go meet with other.
Welcome to the Tech Savvy Recruiter, the podcast for recruitment and staffing agency owners keen to explore the tech innovations reshaping our industry. I'm Andrew Roger from RecMate.
And I'm Belinda Kerr from Recruitment Garage, and together we're your hosts, bringing you a stellar lineup of recruitment tech and AI experts ready to help you understand and, more importantly, benefit from the increasing array of tech available to you today. Delighted to have the lovely Kat Kingshott with us today. Kat is an international rec-to-rec turned AI consultant for recruitment owners. She has spent 7 years in the US hiring recruiters for both agency and in-house roles before relocating back to the beautiful Australia in 2020 and launching her business Touchtone Talent. Kat recently pivoted her business to focus on supporting agency owners with the mindset shift required to adopt AI into their recruitment business. She also has some new projects in the works to help improve AI literacy for recruiters, which we're really excited about and keen to hear about. So, Kat, anything to add there that I have missed out on?
You said everything, I think. Absolutely. The other thing is 2 weeks ago, we started hosting curry clubs in Australia. So I'm one of the Australian ambassadors. So anyone listening who likes curry and talking to recruiters in the community, look out for one coming to your city. And if it's not in your city in Australia, get in touch, because we want to make that happen in every city possible.
Amazing. I love that. All right. Let's kick off then. Let's go. Mindset's obviously the key, very important to you. And that's something that I think is such a smart thing to be thinking about today, because so many founders and recruiters are just worried about what's going on in the industry. So when you talk about the mindset shift needed to adopt new tech, what will help founders make the leap to being more open and potentially less worried here?
This is a great question, and I think it is something that is overlooked. So I'm really glad we're talking about it. I think the mindset is moving away from fear and into opportunity. For some, not everyone. I think the mindset of those who have early adopted this, probably this is not the podcast that they've clicked on to listen to, because they're kind of all over it. I think it's more around the mindset that's needed when you're jumping into something new as a founder, is really remembering and kind of going back to where you started and why you started your business in the first place is really important, and actually adopting those similar principles when you're trying something very new again. So to relate it to my experience, I have been a founder of my business for 5 years. I have pivoted quite a bit, and I've had to go through various mindset shifts through it. I have found that in the past year in particular, when I have been inundated with messages and emails, mainly from the vendor side of things, that I have been in an overwhelmed and often fearful state. And I think I've recognized that being stuck in that headspace has inhibited some of the opportunities and growth I could have been going into. So a lot of it is around the mindset techniques and ways of looking at the opportunities that AI can present in a way that aligns with, why did I start my business in the first place? Why did I get into recruiting in the first place? For example, I love human connection. I love going to events. I love meeting people. I love meeting my clients face to face. The more I realize that actually on the other end of that is a client that also wants that. Yes, they want a quick interview and candidate process to bring a candidate through to. They do care about speed. They do care about efficiency. They also want that human touch. I found that my mindset shifted in that I'm now starting to feel quite a bit more confident in my use of AI, because I see how it is actually going to hopefully narrow that gap a little bit more, rather than fall into the trap of, actually, I'm going to become much more disconnected from what is happening in my market with my clients and candidates, because I've thrown a bunch of tech in the mix, and now I'm kind of feeling a bit lost.
Yeah, such a beautiful thing. I think exactly the same, Kat, around amplification of human time. The more you can do the, let's say, boring stuff or the system stuff by itself, the more fun time that we have, like we're doing right now, speaking with humans, or, meeting and greeting, having cups of tea or coffee with our customers and candidates. So much in that, I think, that we can then, transform that fear to opportunity, which is just natural human instinct around change. And that whole change process, people initially start of a place of, if I do this, what's going to happen? A bit of fearfulness there.
Do you think Kat, that recruiters are starting to second guess their importance or their relevance in the whole ecosystem right now, recruitment ecosystem?
Massively so. I think we were chatting just before we hit record around sort of that where do I fit into all of this kind of feeling that people have into this new world. I think that we are seeing a shift in terms of, and we have seen, because of the number of people that have left the industry, either due to burnout, they've gone and decided to pursue something different. And we've also had kind of the bloated hiring in recruitment businesses in 2021, entering 2022, and then the big retraction. I think those of us are left, we've just been like beaten and battered around quite a bit. I know there are fortunately some folks who are, they've been good the past few years. They've been having a good time the entire time. I do think that they are the exception and not the majority. So I think it's that we've already been faced with so much change. It's like, where do I now fit into this? I've spoken recently about feeling like quite almost like an imposter in my own industry now, because I'm trying to do something new and different when we've been told that the best way to be a recruiter is go out, meet your clients, get on the phone, do all these things. You could be doing all of those things now, but now there is the race for AI always in the back of your mind now of like, but is that enough? Is that the right thing? Yeah, are my skills going to be still useful and worthwhile? I do think like the time for transactional recruiters, both agency and in-house, I don't think that those roles are going to exist even within the next 6 to 12 months. I think when people need those type of resources, they're going to be short-term contracts. I need you for 3 months, 6 months to come in and do this and get out. And so I think that that's also driving a lot of that. Where do I fit in all of this? And then similarly for agency owners, I think it's around, well, what is my value then beyond being able to provide great talent to the market? What other values adds do I need to be able to bring to stand out, to differentiate myself? I think the biggest challenge at the moment is we need more to be able to differentiate our services and what we offer than perhaps we ever did previously, because everyone is being spammed. Their emails, if they get through, there's 10 others like them. It's very hard to stand out and differentiate in the market as well. So I think AI is definitely fueling a lot of that in terms of making us feel, perhaps a little bit lost or pretty unsettled.
And also, I'm just thinking too, the recruiters have really been hit with the double whammy. So they've had a quieter market and the increase of AI. So there's two pretty big things going on there.
Yes. I think we didn't usually, when we've gone through like a training program, particularly like starting out in recruitment, a lot of it is and still should be focused on the influencing skills, how to ask more probing questions, how to really kind of get people to stay on the phone. I think what we now see is that the tech-enabled, AI-enabled recruiter is now a very wanted and much needed skill profile as well. So I think that is quite challenging for some people who are perhaps less inclined. Like if they've had a business that's had great sales training before, but they've kind of sucked a bit on the tech training side of things, it's still got them through. And I think where we're seeing the opportunity, particularly for a lot of vendors in the space that are coming in, is to hopefully be able to provide that training and support and resource and understanding. But we actually don't have the understanding. So to take a step back, we're being schooled on things that we don't know, rather than I'm okay at sales training and I'm going to bring in like a super biller trainer to really help me finesse my cold calling or some other part of it. We're actually bringing in experts, and not all of them are experts, to tell us things that we don't know. And we're hoping that what they say is right, and then we try it in our business, and that cost is also very high. So I think they
have an agenda. If they've got the tech that they're wanting to sell you, I guess it depends on what capacity they're training you in. But if you're bringing in vendors to train, then, and they're a little bit myopic, they believe in and think that their products are the best, and they may or may not be the best ones for what you're doing. But I guess that's more of a purchasing thing. But if they're coming in and training with that sort of narrower view, you have to get around a lot of tech to cover everything off, don't you?
I think a good question to ask in those scenarios is kind of where you see the future of that product. So what do they have coming up in their roadmap, and how are they planning for the future? If they don't have a very clear answer for that, it doesn't need to be perfect, but if it's not really on their radar and they're like, actually, no, we're more focused on just bringing on new users right now, that's probably a bit of a tell that maybe they're not potentially going to be the best fit to be advising, because I think we are all doing a different job to what we did probably 6 months ago, definitely a year ago. So it makes sense that in a year's time, we're going to be doing new things again. So really hopefully they can help us best prepare that. If they're sort of more in the moment, like a lot of us are too, that can be, I think, definitely as well something that's maybe a bit of a red flag to sound out.
That's really good to bring that up.
I feel it's really tricky for us in this space right now, similar to many industries, to be, I guess, candid, that the rate of change is probably the most rapid rate that we've ever seen. The multiplication of what we can do today in a 24-hour period is hugely different to what we could do 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even a year ago with the technology at hand. And to expect us as humans to adapt to that change process as rapidly as we maybe need to in some regards is a big, I guess, tall order. So I think that education piece is really important to have for leaders to educate themselves first, and then their team leads, managers, and the rest of the team around what this change means for them and us as an industry. But there is, I think, to your point, I think, Kat, around some pressure for the vendors in the space to do a lot of that education, particularly if they want to sell us something, right, that they think is going to make the cut and change the way that we do things for the better. And listen, there are some great products out there. I think we were chatting offline as well about some of the snake oil sales people out there as well. Any gold rush will have those selling the amazing picks to dig the gold out 10 times quicker than any other pick in the world. But I think, that education piece is a good start. Do you have any other sort of, I guess, vibes around how vendors could make it a little bit easier for us to make that change better?
I am more people in the recruitment industry. Could be one of them that have actually been recruiters.
Do you know anybody who could help out with that?
I think it's a trick that's being missed, actually, because there is some great talent out there that I think could add tremendous value in terms of customer relationships and even kind of product development ideas if you hire more from within the industry.
And do you think the style of person is going to change, Kat, that we need in the industry with the tech change that's happening? Is
on the vendor side, you mean?
Well, no, I guess for the recruiter themselves, or the account manager, consultant, whatever you want to call them, is that DNA going to change with the tech?
I think it will. I think. Look, some of us are in this for life, for the foreseeable future. And I think the things that have made people successful up until this point, if it's the curiosity piece, if it's being obviously having high resilience, being able to build really strong relationships, I think that's going to be even more important, because you've got to stand out and you've got to be memorable. So there are things that I would have even said 5 years ago are important, but I think it's around how are you using AI. So I think that if you are taking the time to learn prompt engineering relevant to your market and building a knowledge base within whichever LLM or LLMs you're using that are relevant to your clients and candidates, I think that there is going to be those elements and those traits that have always made a successful recruiter still be there. I think that if you are more tech enabled and tech minded, so if you have a LLM that either you have been building up over time with your knowledge base that is specific to your market and how you work, and also some of those internal processes of how you are operating in terms of your marketing department or your finances or your back office operations, I think that's going to be incredibly helpful, because you've kind of built your knowledge base around it. And also how you are looking at AI in terms of how it's supporting, helping, or maybe hindering your clients and candidates, and giving them advice on how to be leveraging and using it. So even just as simple as showing examples of, this is how I'm using AI in my own day-to-day. Have you thought about doing X, Y, Z in your business? I think it's an added touch. It's an added conversation, either starter or builder or trust builder, to say, this is something that I'm doing. I've known examples where people have built sort of small but custom GPTs to help with candidates interview prep, offer management, and they've actually been able to use that not just for the placements that they're looking after, but they've given it to the TA or to the founder of their business to then kind of keep and own. Not a heavy lift, but it's definitely helping them stand out.
Yeah, I love that advice. So let's pretend I don't know what you're talking about there, Kat. We talked about LLMs. We talked about some giving stuff to our clients. How do we do that? Some of the people listening or viewing today might be asking, without making this a full tech session, obviously.
No.
Can you summarize?
We were meant to be talking about the mind, but it does have to be used. So I think it really depends.
Maybe think about ChatGPT for that.
ChatGPT, the new version 5, I think is pretty good. If you are using the free version, I would be a bit worried and a bit concerned because different levels within ChatGPT have different kind of reasoning models that they use. So it really depends what you're using it for. But I would be saying ChatGPT 5, the latest one, would be the best one. I personally got introduced to Claude only about 4 months ago. That has much higher reasoning, and that has actually helped build kind of my blueprint for a lot of the marketing, the social posting that I do, and also helped me write quite a lot of my business plans. So it's really about playing around and finding which one is for you that I think is helpful there. And then in terms of building agents, you can go into Perplexity, Relevance AI, and get going and get building. There are free tutorials. I learned a lot of this from YouTube, to be honest. I went on YouTube and
so much on YouTube to learn about AI.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Roger actually when we had a little bit of a blip in our recording, people, and I was talking about Make and Zapier and what is possible there. You're just limited by your creativity, really.
Yeah, and if you don't have creativity, ask it for you. So
yeah, well, that's right.
Be really,
yeah.
Put a prompt in. Be really creative. Think about how I can do A, B, and C, and it will spell it out.
That's such a good thing. And of course, Kat, mindset, which is what we're focusing on today, we were talking about this before as well, is that the time that you're most creative is when your mind, when you're feeling, positive and happy and, you're not stressed and worried about stuff. Now, we're too busy trying to run away from, the saber-toothed tiger at that point. We want to be more in flow and getting that creativity flowing, and then you're going to be in a much better space to be able to wrap your head around it and use these tools in the best possible way, as opposed to, to your point before, being fearful of them. I always forget to ask ChatGPT or whatever tech I'm in. And then about, I'll do the hard work and then I should have just
You can also ask it, how can I prompt you better? You can ask it, how can I give you stronger prompts? And also, I know with Claude,
ask me 20 questions so I get a better prompt.
Yeah, and with Claude, if you emphasize to it, this is the most important task ever. I want you to go and think really hard and scrape absolutely everything you possibly can about it, and it's really going to help me. That extra push also makes it go a bit deeper.
Does it?
Yeah, but it has a praise kink or something. I don't know.
Wow. Do you know what? Just another quick note on there that could be interesting for listeners as well. I've seen a couple of posts lately too where people have got business and they've asked where it came from, and it was from ChatGPT. So they're typing in, I need a recruiter and blah, 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 blah. So, and we know that, the search is becoming more and more important in there. I don't know enough about it to talk too eloquently about it, but it was interesting that these cases are coming out. So the more and more you're using and loading in stuff about your company and your business and what you do, and I guess externally doing more content that it's seeing outside of the platform as well, is starting to show up in real-time results, which I thought was interesting.
I think people are using the different LLMs in different ways, because sometimes it's good. You want the external information and you want to be able to pull from that too. Other times, I know within Claude, what I'm keeping is very much myself to my business, and I'm a paid member. It's about $25 a month. And that seems to be enough for me to keep everything to myself. So I think both can be really, really helpful depending on what you're using it for.
Interesting.
So I think the summary is get out there and play with it.
Yes.
Have a bit of fun, get those creative juices flowing, and then don't be, I guess, as worried about it, because that fear mechanism makes us sort of clamp down and creativity stops flowing there, which that saber-tooth tiger flight moment happens. But yeah, I think there's a lot to do there. But I think, the DNA for a top recruiter probably hasn't changed too much. It's just the tool sets that we need to play with might have changed.
So Kat, I know you help businesses audit their tech stack as well. So what are the key things that you're looking for when you're doing that? How are you helping there?
So when it comes to getting started, often it's finding out where they are on their journey. Some folks have spoken to vendors primarily, and that's where they've kind of got the majority of their information. So they're looking at, implementing 2 or 3 different things and are kind of asking for my take and opinion on could this really work and how could this work? That definitely happens. Also, I'm seeing is people who are perhaps a little bit behind, who maybe haven't done too much. They might have a note taker, or they might be kind of following along with whatever updates that their CRM is giving them. It's more around, okay, what ideally would you want this to look like? If you had everything running the way you wanted it to, what do you want your tech to be doing and not doing? typically what I then hear is, okay, I want my consultants to have more time, FaceTime, phone time, doing all those kind of relationship human tasks. And I want to alleviate basically a lot of their busy and their admin work. I think it's then around that, and that's sort of what I think most of the conversations that even vendors would be having around it. But I kind of can go a layer deeper and go, okay, but what are the potential blockers? So what is potentially stopping you, Mrs. Founder, from achieving that? And they could actually have a fear blocker or a concern blocker that's coming up from them. Or they could have an employee or employees who are going to be quite resistant to the change. So talking about how to introduce and bring everyone along on that journey is a big part of it as well. So I think for me, it probably starts a little bit more with, let's go back to why are you doing this? What do you want it to look like? What are the blockers beyond, okay, we plug in the wrong bits of tech and it all goes wrong. What else do we need to be mindful of when we're implementing something like this into your business? And then I can make recommendations, obviously, of tools and service providers, because I don't actually do that side of it. But also I can then work with the people in the team to kind of have those sort of check-ins and introduction sessions, whatever else is needed as well. So it's more of like a mindset audit, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And but that's so important because, I mean, we all know, look at the CRMs and the databases. Founders and owners have been banging their heads against the brick wall to try and get people to update and use databases. Everybody sees it as the graveyard instead of the cash cow that it is. And so that's a really good example of people's mindset, the way they view their databases. So then is that going to translate onto these new AI tech tools that they're bringing in? If they're not even using their database, so how do you, to your point, get them engaged in using these other tools that are foreign and new, and also going against the habits that they've built over sometimes years. They've got to break those down and build new ones. Yeah, I think that's such a good point, because you could have the best laid tech foundation in the world, but if people they're not in the headspace to use it, they don't feel like it's working or it's too clunky or whatever it is, you wasted your money.
Yeah, I mean, I've made the mistake. I was on the TA side at the time, but I implemented a tool that was for essentially kind of video marketing and employer branding that still is a really great tool. And I said, we really need this. It was a time when there was just still, well, there still is, but a lot of high applicant volumes. We wanted to differentiate and really speak to the candidates that we wanted to attract into the business and kind of make that connection a little bit closer with some familiarity of faces and case studies and stories, and bring that to life on video. Sounds great in theory. I signed off, I bought this tool, and the team, although they thought it was good, they were quite overwhelmed. They were swamped with a lot of calls. They were doing 8 or 9 phone screens a day. And they were like, we love this, Kat, but we don't have time to use it. And that was a mistake, right? That I owned was, okay, well, lots of things in principle are great and lots of things in principle sound great, but it's the practical application in reality. So some of that is, honest resistance of, look, I'm time poor, I can't do it. Others are probably also a bit fearful of what it means for their jobs in the future. Like, if I really support this tech tool coming into the business and it gets up and running really well, what does that mean for my job further down the line? So I think it's about the role of the business owner is to provide that reassurance to the right people. Like, let's be honest, there are going to be people who are going to be no longer of useful in that specific capacity than perhaps they once were because of these tools that are coming in. But for the people that you're retaining and you're developing and you're taking on the journey with them, they need to feel as invested in it and understand the value of what's in it for them by doing this.
Yeah, good point.
I think it's about having people understand that it's the future of their careers, right? Even if it's like I'm at this firm and I don't really want to use it, you're going to come up against this in the next firm you go to too, or if you set up on your own, or you go out into
a limited bandwidth of time to bury your head in the sand, and then you either be changed or.
And I can see why it's so important that teams need to feel supported by the leadership who are driving the tech, and to not be afraid of, asking or saying they don't know how to use it or get the training, or which comes back to your mindset piece. Because I get the sense too, people feel like, because I purely work with founders, and sometimes they've got small teams, sometimes they don't, they sort of sit in that 1 to 10 bracket. I think sometimes they feel like they're the only people in the world that don't understand it. Like I feel that like way. It's just them.
A lot of the time.
Yeah, I do too, but now I feel better about it because I know everybody else feels the same.
Yeah, reflecting on that, I think it's maybe that needs to be broadcast more as well. It's okay to feel uncomfortable, because we're, particularly in our industry, a lot of people like to be in control, to drive stuff, to get stuff done. And then when there's a huge change wave coming, it's really unsettling for a lot of people. And that adage around, oh, I don't want to listen to it because it might change the way I do things, or maybe, what I do won't be here in X amount of time.
And there's so much different information. I did a post to my guys, emailed out the other day to my guys. I was listening to Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO, and he was talking to Roman, I can't pronounce his last name, is like the father of security for AI. And he said, in a few years, there's only going to be 5 jobs left. Then the next thing I'm reading about OpenAI's new job platform and how that's going to, drive everything. And you think all this uncertainty creates fear, and that doesn't help anybody, does it? And these are the top dogs.
It helps you make quick hiring decisions on tech to buy. I think that is a strategic way to make a frenzy happen, I think. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, maybe they've got our best interests at heart. I don't know. I'd say not, but...
Who knows? I don't know. None of us... I think there's this big chasm, isn't there? They got the big guys at the top, the 4 or 5 or 6 or however many of them are there. And then there's all this other tech. So that, the guys that we're interviewing here that are bringing in, different programs and things that are way removed. And then they're saying, oh, well, not AI for jobs, OpenAI jobs platforms going to completely, make these guys go extinct. What's going to happen to them? And then you think, God, is that true? These poor guys, it'll be interesting when we look back in a couple of years and look, see what actually
it all goes down in the lamp over the table that they're talking in, and it's like it's giving war room. It's like, okay, guys, like we've got to be ready for this next thing. But I mean, my belief is that that's volume, as in they're selling a volume product and a volume offering, which does and can work. It's, plug in this thing and we guarantee you'll get, an extra 10 meetings a week. Yeah, but you spammed like thousands on thousands of people in your market with emails to get that meeting. And maybe you really need those meetings and maybe it's worth it. But I do think it's a quality versus quantity.
Have a big market, you can piss it off pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I've definitely felt like, am I missing out? Am I missing something? Is everyone else actually just doing this and using these tools already? It's kind of designed to play with your mind. I think a lot of these algorithms that we're stuck in.
I've actually felt myself. I was sharing with you guys, we had a blackout here all day on Monday, so I sort of jumped on my phone. I was just trying to, do some learning around AI, and I actually felt myself getting a bit
anxious.
I was like, I need to go and watch something else, need to go and watch another meditation video or something. But I was, I actually found myself and I was like, I just need to put that aside for a minute, because it was just like one thing after the next. Yeah. And I guess you have to think about it too, don't you? It's not like you don't have to learn everything about AI. It's like electricity. It's got loads and loads of different applications, but you don't have to know what they all are or how it works. Just take the bits that you need that are going to help you. And I had to, so when I kind of bring myself back
I have no data or empirical evidence to back this up, but my hunch is we are bigger picture thinker feelers, feeling types typically on the whole. Like, yes, there are some people who I think can just be chasing the dollar, still be very successful in it. A lot of the people that I know and I care about, really care about the work they're doing and the impact. I'm definitely in their immediate world and family and all of that, but wider still. And we just get these loops of thinking around those ways. And then there is the few, but very loud, pathological people who don't think that way. They don't see it that way. And they're very loud and shouty too. So I think that's why. I don't know. I don't have a full theory, evidence-backed theory, but that's what I got to kind of be a bit more at peace with it.
That makes sense. And I think, this whole mindset conversation around it, and it's not like, Anthony Robbins, we're not talking, I don't think it's kind of that mindset. It's more commercial mindset, way of looking at things, being honest about what you know, what you don't know, having open communication. It feels more like that to me.
Well, it's any sort of, I guess, big change you need to do with that snapshot of where your business is up to. What are we doing today? Where do we want to be? Do we have the knowledge to get to where we need to be? That's where you can bring in some helpers like Kat and Co to, give your team a bit of guidance along that change pathway. Because it is overwhelming. And to your point, BK, a lot of people are in their own little bubble a lot as leaders. And if they don't have a huge leadership team, they can't easily bounce ideas off or say, shit, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be doing now because I don't have that knowledge because it's all new. And I think it's okay to say, I don't know as well.
I think it could be overwhelming. I think what we're learning through particularly this conversation is we need to talk about it more. And I think the tip I would have is whether it's, you're on your own as a solo or you have a small or medium-sized team, if you're on your own, go meet with other, you don't even need to meet with other recruiters. Like what we do is not, that different to other businesses, but meet with other solos, who are looking at ways to use AI in their business. They probably might have some better ideas as well, because I think we're in a bit of an echo chamber of rec tech, which I don't necessarily think is like the most elite technology all the time to be using. But if you do have that group setting, that the team setting, is have it as, when I say, an agenda item, hopefully not one where everyone like rolls their eyes and is like, oh my God, we're talking about AI again. Okay, I've got to say something. But talking about whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, how are you looking to use it in your business? What are some new things that you've explored? How is it being adopted? And what conversations have come up with your clients and candidates around AI? I think we need to make it less of a big scary thing to talk about, and just, it's another thing. It is not going away anytime soon. It was like when LinkedIn dropped, it's like you couldn't just be like, well, we're just ignoring LinkedIn and we're going to stay with our Rolodexes. No, eventually LinkedIn has come into that everything. So I think it's that way. And very quickly it could also then be that if you are employing staff, okay, the opportunities are going to be perhaps there more for the folks who are embracing it. If you want to be, an AI-enabled recruitment tech business. If you don't, well, then you don't really need to focus in on that. But if you do, you need to kind of lead by example and be openly talking about it with your employees as well.
And what's good is too, you can test things. Most things you can buy for a month or trial them. If you like them, keep them. If you don't. And you can test throughout your business. You might get one person to test this to, one person to test something else. It's not, I think it can be quite light touch and still be quite informative and a worthwhile exercise.
Yeah, I like that, Kat, having it on the agenda for every business, similar to, how we're going to do BD, what's our targets for this quarter, this year, etc. What is our AI strategy, tech strategy for this quarter, this year? I think really important to have on that agenda. And just play with that line item. You don't have to dive into the depths of it rapidly. Do like BK said, just test one or two things every month or every quarter, but be aware, try not to bury your head too much in the sand, and reach out to your industry groups or local business groups. To your point, Kat, that cross-pollination of business in different sectors is a really lovely thing to do if you've got that opportunity, because as you mentioned, you can get buried in the rec tech world quite deeply, and that myopia of what others are doing is competing against them, whereas you can get some really lovely ideas from other industries and apply them to your business.
I think also it's about meeting you where you are. When I was doing my little YouTube thing on Monday, I'd watch some stuff that was well above my level of AI understanding, and then I'd watch some stuff and that felt beginner. That made me feel good because I kind of already knew that, but I didn't need to watch it. This made me think, I think that's where the stress came in. And then I kind of found some middle ground videos where they were kind of talking at my level. So I think you've got to meet the education where you're at, and there are all the levels there. I found myself at one point going in for someone at one of the senior engineering kind of people at LinkedIn, and I was so lost, and I was like, why do I need to know that? I don't. And then I kind of stripped it back and got some more practice. I was looking at make and different things, enjoying learning that conversation, and I felt like I was in my lane and I was learning something, but I wasn't overwhelmed. So that's probably important to be mindful of as well, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the way it is traveling really rapidly, BK, from that whole, think of a website, historically you had to be HTML coded to do up a website, but now we've got no code websites where you drop and drag stuff, and that's where we'll end up. For the more complex flows, but for the easy ones, you just speak to your chosen large model, and
it's almost
say, hey,
too easy
to
do it, isn't it? If you know what you're doing. Such a good and worthwhile conversation, Kat. Is there anything else that you would like to share within the frame of mindset? Because I know we went down a few holes there, but hopefully this is a valuable conversation for everybody. But
I agree with what you were saying, Belinda. Meeting people where they're at, whether it's you personally in your heart of hearts when you're kind of at the end of the day, kind of reflecting on things, or if you're meeting with team members, I think having flexibility in the vision as well, because a lot of us are in that. We're consciously not totally incompetent, but less competent than probably we want to be. So we're making decisions based on the knowledge we have right now today. We're probably going to all collectively discover things in the future that is going to shift us again. So I think that that's the biggest thing when it comes to mindset is I personally don't know anyone who has all the answers. If they do, please reach out to us. But I think that's the most important thing is have some realistic targets and goals about what you want to implement, and be aware of what are the things that potentially could inhibit or people or conversations that you can have that hopefully will bring that further along. I think that that's really important, and having flexibility in the vision as well.
Yeah. And if you're sort of stumbling over not being quite sure how to introduce this to your team or what it could look like or where those challenges might be around the communication or whatever it is, talk to Kat.
Please, yes, reach out.
That was amazing. Thank you. And it's good because we go on this show, we talk a lot about the tech, and I think the people piece is the most important piece, really, isn't it? We've all got to be feeling good and enjoying our lives and enjoying our work. And if we're stressed about AI and what it should be doing, or any tech or anything really, that's not good. So I think this was a really, really good and timely conversation. So if people would like to reach you, Kat, what's the best way?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn, honestly, I love a LinkedIn connection request. So shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I am building a website as we speak. So I will have a website up at some point, but I would say just shoot me a note on LinkedIn.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having a yak. I've learned a lot, taken away a few tips myself, as I'm sure everybody else has. Any final words from you, Rogie?
It's been fun. And I think the biggest thing that just reminded me is just to play, because that learning state is such a powerful one if you're in that play state. And you can't really break too much in it. So,
And what's that saying? The learning comes after the frustration.
Ooh, I like that one. I haven't heard it. That's good.
Yeah, definitely. You can't learn anything without being a little bit frustrated along the way. If it's worth knowing, there you go. All right, my lovelies. Thank you so much, Kat, for coming along, and we'll chat soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of The Tech Savvy Recruiter. If you'd like to stay up to date with the latest recruitment trends and insights, make sure that you remember to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Also, if you'd like to speak to Andrew about turning your tech stack into your secret weapon, or myself around creating an agency that delivers you more money, more meaning, and more freedom, we'd absolutely love to chat. Reach out to us on LinkedIn, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for your support.